أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين. Verse number 28. واصبر نفسك مع الذين يدعون ربهم بالغداة والعشي يريدون وجهه ولا تعد عيناك عنهم تريد زينة الحياة الدنيا ولا تطع من أغفلنا قلبه عن ذكرنا واتبع هواه وكان أمره فرطا. Content yourself with the company of those who supplicate their Lord morning and evening, desiring his face, and do not lose sight of them, desiring the glitter of the life of this world. And do not obey him whose heart we have made oblivious to our remembrance, and who follows his own desires, and his matter was excessive of the limits. This verse is advising, apparently, the Prophet, peace be on him, that he should be content with those poor people who are around him, and the wealthy and rich people who come to him with some conditions if those conditions are fulfilled, they will come and listen to him. Advises the Prophet that you should not accept those conditions and should not listen to them. Just content yourself with these people who are committed but poor. The prophets always had this problem. In the Quran, we see in many instances, it's mentioned that when the prophets preached these teachings to the elite in the society, to the rich people, to the people of authority, to power, one of the objections was that, well, we cannot come and sit with you or listen to you because always these riffraff, these poor people are around you, and it is not our position, our status is above coming and sitting with these people and listening to you. One of the objections which Quran mentions, especially about Nuh alayhi salam. Sometimes we think that, well, the people of authority or power or wealth at the time of Nuh alayhi salam, we think all of them were just equal huntsmen or something like that. But of course, that's a false image we have about history. Now, one of the things which they said, and Quran mentions it several times, was that they had set a condition for him that if you want us to listen to you, you have to just leave these riffraff and poor people who are around you. وقال الملأ الذين كفروا من قومه ما نراك إلا بشرا مثلنا. First of all, this is the conversation between Nuh and the people of authority of his time. First of all, we see you just as a human being like us. Secondly, وما نراك إلا اتبعك الذين هم أراذلنا. Only the people of low status, the people of no position, aradhil are the lowest class in the society. These are following you. وَمَا نَرَاكَ إِلَّا اتَّبَعَكَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ أَرَاذِلُنَا بَادِيَ الرَّأْيِ. Simple-minded, simpleton people. They don't understand anything. They don't know what is philosophy, what is science, what are these things. And these are the people who are following you. وَمَا نَرَاكَ إِلَّا اتَّبَعَكَ هُمْ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ هُمْ أَرَاذِلُنَا بَادِيَ الرَّأْيِ وَمَا نَرَى لَكُمْ عَلَيْنَا مِنْ فَضْلٍ. So what is your merit above us? What is the merit of you and your followers? And of course the answer of Nuh was that وَمَا أَنَا بِطَارِدِ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. I am not going to drive away the believers around me. I have no authority to do that. If I do that, God would punish me. Now, one problem that prophets always faced was this, because the message was not only a spiritual message, when it came into society, it became a political message as well. I mean, the people of authority were affected by this. If they wanted to accept it, it became political. Always, religion is always political. You cannot say we have a religion without politics, because the message of religion includes certain instructions which very quickly become political. And of course, it threatens, it puts under question the authority of those who are in authority. Why are you there? Who has given you this authority? And such things. Therefore, the prophets had sort of two addressee of their message. One were the people around them, of course, those who believed, the general public, the grassroots, and the other were authorities. As soon as the grassroots, the populace, they started to believe and they started to follow, well, it became something, of course, socially solid, important, and the authorities were involved. And therefore, we see in every case mentioned about prophets in the Quran, we have the conversation of prophets not with the people, but with the authorities. قَالَ الْمَلَأُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْ قَوْمِهِ. The authorities, the mala are the authorities, the people in power and position. They started to argue. And one of the things, of course, here, because this verse is revealed in Mecca, Prophet didn't have any authority there. However, the people of wealth, the people of position, they started to talk to the Prophet that, well, how are we going to come and talk to you, converse with you, while these riffraff are around you, poor people are around you, slaves who just previously been slaves, now bought and freed, they are around you. It is not us who, it is not in our status to come and sit with you. Now, the advice here is directed to the Prophet, but as we said, this is actually an answer to those people who were objecting the Prophet about the poor people who are around him. About the cause of revelation of this verse, we have several traditions which none of them are actually reliable. The only thing that we know is that the wealthy people, the elite in Mecca, they were uneasy to come and listen to the Prophet, to come and sit with the Prophet. They were uneasy because of these, of course, as I said, people like Bilal, who was just a slave, bought and freed by the Prophet, or people like Ammar, like Khabbab, who had no status, no wealth, nothing. They were around him, they were uneasy, so the verse is addressed towards them. But the traditions, the narrations which give an account of the revelation, they have mentioned certain people. For example, in one tradition coming from Tafsir al-Qummi, it says that this verse was revealed about Salman al-Farsi, that he was, of course, very poor. He just had one dress, wearing it all the time, and even sometimes this dress became very dirty, especially in the summer, and they started to somehow, because of the sweat, had a stinky sort of thing, and people didn't like to come and sit beside the Prophet when Salman was there. Now, this hadith cannot be correct. We know Tafsir al-Qummi is a mixture of authentic and unauthentic traditions. Why it cannot be correct? Because Salman believed in Medina, and this is a Makki verse, so it's a confusion of sort of dates, so to speak. There is a possibility that sometimes, for example, this may have happened in Medina. Some people wanted to come and sit with the Prophet. They saw Salman and others around him, Abu Zar, very, very poor, and they may have objected, and the Prophet may have mentioned this verse there. That's, it is revealed to me that وَلَا وَاصْبِرْ نَفْسَكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَدَاةِ وَالْعَشِيِّ. And then some people who had not any knowledge about this verse being revealed before, because there were many new converts there, they thought that the verse was revealed at that time. And this happens about many verses. Because, for example, in many cases we have different occasions of revelation with lapse in time, distance in time. And this shows that, for example, a verse which was revealed before, Prophet mentioned it as an argument to others, and then some thought that this verse was revealed at that time, and they say this is the cause of revelation. In Majma' al-Bayan, another account is mentioned, says that the verse is about Salman and Abu Zar and Suhaib and Khabbab and other poor people around the Prophet. And when some of the elites and wealthy people came to the Prophet, like Uyaynat ibn Hussein and Aqra ibn Habis, they came to the Prophet and they didn't feel it's right for them to sit with these people around the Prophet. Prophet, of course, was, if this is correct, this should be in Medina, of course, because Salman is mentioned again. At that time, Prophet had authority. These people came to listen, but they said, you have to, first of all, lead them out. We cannot sit with these people. And then the verse was revealed. Again, if this is a true account, it should be not a cause for revelation. Prophet has mentioned this verse as an argument that I cannot do that. I am ordered, I'm commanded by God to be with these people and to sit with these people. Other traditions, especially one in Sahih Muslim, says that it's from completely different people, actually. Muslim reports from Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, the father of Umar ibn Sa'd, who was, of course, an early companion of the Prophet. He says that me and Balal and a couple of other people were around the Prophet when these prominent people came, and they said that you have to let these people go out of the room so that we sit with you. And something Prophet felt that, yes, it's right, because I want to invite these people to Islam. It's right that I ask these people to go, and then these people sit and we talk to each other. This happened in the heart. The Prophet felt that it's right to do it. He said, yes, of course these people cannot sit with the riffraff, with the poor. Let's have them out and we sit with these people. Then the verse was revealed. Again, this is very strange. And that's why even Ibn Kathir says, Bukhari has not mentioned this hadith, only Muslim objecting that this cannot be. Why it cannot be? How did Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas realize what happened in the heart of the Prophet? This is very strange, that he says that something happened in the heart of the Prophet. Prophet felt that he should listen to them. How this feeling was revealed to Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. So none of these are reliable. The only thing is that because the mushrikun of Mecca, this verse is Mecca, this verse is not Madani, because the mushrikun of Mecca felt that, okay, if we want to listen to him and talk to him, he is now becoming a prominent political figure in Mecca. If we want to talk to him, these poor people should, we cannot sit with them. When we want to go there, he should have them out of the room. And the verse came as an answer to them, not, of course, addressing the Prophet that you shouldn't do it. Of course, the Prophet wouldn't do it. Even an ordinary believer would not do that. A real mu'min would never do that. And we somehow, our sort of image of prophets, the way we depict them in our mind, is so low, and even lower than ordinary believers and mu'minun, which is amazing. And all these have crept into our traditions. So these asbab al-nuzul, these traditions cannot be relied upon. The only thing is that the mushrikun of Mecca did not want to sit with these poor people, and the verse is an address to them. However, of course, because the Prophet is the receiver of revelation, the address has come to him. وَلَا وَاصْبِرْ نَفْسَكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَدَاةِ وَالْعَشِيِّ. And similar verses are revealed in other chapters as well. For example, in Surah An'am, وَلَا تَطْرُدَ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَدَاةِ وَالْعَشِيِّ يُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَهُ. Do not drive away those who call upon their Lord in the morning and evening. They are seeking his face. And exactly the same argument is there in Surah Al-An'am. Exactly the same argument about other prophets. As I said, this has been a common sort of trend in the conversation between prophets and the people of authority. Now, Wasbir nafsaka means restrict yourself, content yourself with these people. Do not think that by driving away these people, do not think that by sort of putting some air around you, air of authority or air of position, you can attract anyone. And this is very true. Sometimes we feel that the glamour of this world, if we have them, if we have more magnificent mosques, for example, more magnificent architecture, we can attract people to Islam. It is not the case. We see that there are many magnificent mosques built here and there, and of course, people are just, they are attracted to the architecture, the art. Oh, it's very nice and very artful, but the core of the message is not conveyed by these things. And if the messenger of God with his good soul cannot attract someone towards the message, how could a building, how could the glitter of this world attract anyone? Actually, it's more diverting than attracting. One example I can give, example of Mecca, for example. Masjid al-Haram or Masjid al-Nabi. Suppose we didn't have all these good, nice buildings. It's good that we have them, alhamdulillah, that's very good. But if we didn't have them, did it make really any difference for people to go there? Are they going there for these buildings, for these sort of majestic sites? Or they are going for the Kaaba, which is a very simple construction. And one of the most important contrasts and interesting contrast is the Kaaba and the surrounding mosque. You see, the Kaaba is a very simple construction and the surrounding mosque is very beautiful. But what is important, of course, what is attracting people is that very simple construction which Allah has made a symbol of His house. Now, وَاصْبِرْ نَفْسَكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَدَاةِ وَالْعَشِيِّ. They call upon their Lord morning and evening. This is the merit, not the glitter of the world, not wealth, not authority, not power. What is important is this connection. Now, بِالْغَدَاةِ وَالْعَشِيِّ, morning and evening is just a figure of a speech for continuation, as many exegetes have said. Some have said this is referring to Salatul Fajr and Salatul Isha, but there is no reason, no proof for that. We know that if we say, for example, someone is doing something morning and evening, it means that continuously they are doing it. So those who have continuous connection with God. Why this is mentioned, يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَدَاةِ وَالْعَشِيِّ? Because everyone, for example, at certain times in their lives, they have some connection with God. It happens. And this is, of course, the mercy of God. إِنَّ لِرَبِّكُمْ فِي أَيَّامِ دَهْرِكُمْ نَفَحَاتٍ. For your Lord, there are breezes of mercy coming in your life. أَلَا فَتَعَرَّضُوا لَهَا وَلَا تُعْرِضُوا عَنْهَا. Expose yourselves to those breezes of mercy and do not turn away from it. And when these breezes of mercy come, people's heart turn towards God. And this happens in many people's life. But does that count as something which would make a person a good believer? Many of us have had spiritual sort of ecstasies or raptures of very pleasant times of spirituality, but it doesn't last much. And it comes even for disbelievers. Sometimes they feel that they don't like this life. They want something above this. This life is useless. Although they even may not believe in God, but they have these feelings. These are when these breezes come and people's heart turn. Now, this cannot be regarded as something solid and reliable. What is reliable, which is mentioned here, is that this should be continuous. يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَدَاةِ وَالْعَشِيِّ. These are the people who have committed themselves. These are the people who have exposed themselves to the mercy of God. Now, rich people may come to you. They may have said, okay, let's go and listen to this man. Yes, there is a God. Of course, He has created us. Let's go and listen to Him. And when they come and want to listen to you, they put conditions for you. No, of course, you do not turn towards them. These people who have committed themselves continuously are calling their Lord. Keep yourself in constant relation with them. And, of course, this connection is for nothing but yuriduna wajha. This is even more important. They don't turn to God for anything but for his face. Now, what's the meaning of yuriduna wajha? They seek their face. Now, you see that here several descriptions are given for these people who are committed. One of them is that they're turning to God. First of all, they turn to God. Secondly, they turn to God continuously. It's a constant thing in them. It's not some sort of things with intervals. يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَدَاةِ وَالْعَشِيِّ. And they do this يُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَهُ. They seek the face of God. Now, of course, we are not anthropomorphists. We don't believe that God has a face because he's not physical. So what's the meaning of they seek the face of God? The face of God is mentioned in the Quran in several occasions. For example, كُلُّ مَنْ عَلَيْهَا فَانٍ وَيَبْقَى وَجْهُ رَبِّكَ. Whatever is on the earth is going to perish. What would remain is the face of your Lord. And it's very funny that some anthropomorphists, the Mujassima, they say that on the day of judgment, everything will perish, even the body of God, only his face would remain, which is it's more like a joke. You do not believe that someone has ever said this, but they have said it. I mean, when this message goes to silly people, they understand it that way, of course. So it is. Although you cannot imagine someone have said that, but it is in certain books of scholarly writing that on the day of judgment only the face of God would remain. Now, of course, we know that's wrong. كل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام أينما تولوا فثم وجه الله. Wherever you turn, it's the face of God. It's about Qibla and such issues when the controversy arose when the Qibla was changed from Jerusalem to Mecca. The Muslims were objected, okay, why have you changed your Qibla? Previously you were facing towards Jerusalem. If that was right, then your present Salat is wrong. If the present Salat is right, the previous Salat was wrong. And Allah says, okay, I have put this as a sort of symbol, but wherever you turn is face of God. It doesn't matter. Now, what is face of God? Here, certain exegetes have said that this is a metaphor for the essence of God himself. That they seek Dhatullah. They seek Dhatullah means they want to go close to him. They want to go close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some other exegetes have said that, again, this is a metaphorical expression for yuriduna ridahu wa ta'atahu. They seek the pleasure of God. They seek that God is pleased with them, and they seek the obedience of God. Why this metaphor? How it's related? What is the sort of connection between the two? They say because if someone is pleased with you, they look at you. And by looking at you, they have to turn their face towards you. So when we say yuriduna wajha, they seek that God turns to them with his face. That means God turns to them with his mercy, with his raza, with his contentment. This is the meaning of yuriduna wajha. And this metaphor is nice, and we have in other expressions, for example, فَلَا تُعْرِضْ بِوَجْهِكَ الْكَرِيمَ أَنِّي in Dua Abu Hamza, Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam says, فَلَا تُعْرِضْ بِوَجْهِكَ الْكَرِيمَ أَنِّي. Do not turn away with your magnanimous face away. Do not turn your magnanimous face away from me. Meaning that do not cut the connection between me and yourself. But the other, of course, verses does not support this, like أَيْنَمَا تُوَلُّوا فَثَمَّ وَجْهُ اللَّهِ. This is absolutely different from what is mentioned here about the wajh. Now, one other thing which Allama Tabatabai Rahmatullah Alayhi mentions, which makes him, of course, stand out amongst all the other exegetes, is that what is Wajhullah? Wajh, of course, is face. And we know people by their faces. That's true. If we didn't have faces, it was very difficult to recognize each other. Now, so we know God by his face. And face of God is, of course, are his names. The way he presents himself to us, his essence. His essence, of course, is beyond access. We have no access to that essence. Never, not here, not in the hereafter, not in the paradise. We never can have any reach to his essence. What we see of God always, or what we experience of God here and hereafter, is the way he presents himself to us. He presents himself to us as a merciful being, as a majestic being, as a magnificent being, as someone who has, for example, pleasure and wrath. Sometimes he expresses himself with his wrath. Sometimes he expresses himself with his pleasure. Sometimes he expresses himself by giving us sustenance, for example. These are Asma'ullah. And the Quran says, Lillahi al-asma'ul husna. Allah has beautiful names. Beautiful names, meaning that not, of course, just names. They are not names. Beautifully he has expressed himself to you. So call him through those names. That's because he is Razzaq, ask for his rest. Because he is merciful, ask for his mercy. This is calling him with these beautiful names. So, yuriduna wajha means that they actually seek these beautiful names of Allah. Now, beautiful names of Allah are of two types. One are the interactive names. When he acts in his creation, he is merciful, he's great, he's Sahib al-Rizwan, he can be pleased. All these, he's Rabb, he's sustainer, he sustains. These are interactive names of Allah. Some names of Allah are there even if he never interacts with his creation. Like, for example, he's Hayy, he's alive. That life is one of the Asma'ul Zat, for example. The other one is knowledge. He's knowledgeable, whether things are there or not there. He's great. His greatness is not something which is related to the creation at all. Now, when we say that we seek the face of God, if we are talking about these interactive names, for example, he is merciful, it means that we want to expose ourselves to his mercy. This is seeking the face of God, seeking that aspect by which Allah has expressed himself, has shown himself to us. We seek his pleasure, and it is another name of Allah. We want to be marhum, we want to be marri. This is the meaning of seeking his name, his face. If it is about, for example, greatness of God or knowledge of God, it doesn't mean that we want to be knowledgeable or we want to be great. I mean, wanting to be great is the greatest sin, of course, because takabbur is the greatest sin. It only belongs to Allah. Sometimes some people say, تَخَلَّقُوا بِأَخْلَاقِ اللَّهِ, make your conducts or make your akhlaq, nature, like the nature of God. Some people say it means, for example, become great. That's absolutely a confusion. No. When we talk about these names of God, it means that we put ourselves in a position of acknowledgement of those qualities. If we believe that Allah is great, we put ourselves in position of humbleness. In that sense, we have sought the face of God, which is, of course, his greatness. If we seek Wajhullah as the absolute knowledge belonging to him, we seek ourselves in a position of not knowing anything, because knowledge only belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is what we have in many adiyah of A'imma alayhim salam, farham abdakal jahil, have mercy on your ignorant servant, because whatever knowledge we gain compared to the knowledge of God is just like a moisture of dampness of water compared to an ocean. So putting ourselves in that position. So Allah Ta'ala says, yuriduna wajha is like walillahi al-asma'ul husna fad'uhu biha. Call Allah with His beautiful names. His names are His face, because of course He is not physical. His names are His face, and His names are of two types. One type that we seek to be included in that. The other, which we seek to put ourselves in a position that those asma would manifest itself in our position, in our attitude of humbleness. If we are humble, the greatness of God is manifested in us. If we believe and acknowledge that we have no knowledge, then of course the knowledge of God. If we acknowledge that we have no life, that this life is just a sort of a taint of life, not real life, and because real life belongs to Allah only, then of course we have acknowledged that life belongs to Him. So this is the meaning of yuriduna wajha. Whatever, two meanings are probably acceptable here. One is that yuriduna wajha means they seek that He turns to them with His face. That's this, they seek His pleasure. If He is pleased, He would turn to them with His face. The other meaning, which is a deeper meaning, is that they seek to be included in His face in the sense of His asma. And the asma would manifest itself in them. The mercy would manifest themselves in them in the same way as the greatness of Allah manifests itself in them. The mercy manifests itself in them in the sense that they are guided by that mercy, they are taken to closeness of God. The greatness is manifested in them in the sense that they become so humble that they acknowledge that greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so وَاصْبِرْ نَفْسَكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَدَاةِ وَالْعَشِيِّ. Constantly they call the God. يُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَهُ. This they do to seek His face. وَلَا تَعْدُوا عَيْنَاكَ عَنْهُمْ. Do not let your eye go beyond them. تُرِيدُ زِينَةَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. You seek the adornment of this life. Now, of course, the prophets, peace be on them, here it's about the contentment, about the followers, isn't it? Now, when the prophet, peace be upon him, calls people, some fuqara, some poor come to him, and he wants the rich people to come as well. He wants the rich people to come as well because he wants to guide them. It's mu'allafatu qulubihim, those who we seek their hearts to be somehow turned towards faith, their hearts to come close, be lenient towards faith. Of course, we want to do it for their guidance. But if that means a sort of a feeling in the heart that more followers is good. Let's have more followers for our faith, more followers for Shia, for example, or more followers for Ahlul Sunnah, for example, more followers for Christianity, more followers for Islam, at the expense of compromising some of the standards, then of course this is seeking the adornment of this world. Seeking adornment of this world, of course the prophets never seek wealth and such things. What is the seeking adornment of this world here is to have more followers. Okay, let me have more followers. More followers is adornment, isn't it, in itself? The numbers are increasing and we have greater ummah, for example. I have greater ummah. No, do not do that. Religion, faith doesn't work in this way. You know, that's usually the people who are on the right side are in minority. وَقَلِيلٌ مِّنْ عِبَادِيَ الشَّكُورُ. Only a small number of my servants are really grateful, thankful to me. And the majority usually do not believe. وَمَا أَكْثَرُ النَّاسِ وَلَوْ حَرَصْتَ بِمُؤْمِنِينَ. The majority of the people, no matter how much you try, they do not believe unless you compromise something. Yes, of course. If you compromise something, they may come. But if you compromise something and they come, then you have sought zinatul hayat dunya. This is not what I want from you. And as I said, some people have said zinatul hayat dunya means seeking wealth, seeking power, but I don't think this applies here. تريد زينة الحياة الدنيا means you want more followers to come. Of course, all the prophets wanted everyone to follow them. Every prophet wanted the whole people to follow them. However, because they were not allowed to compromise anything in faith, then the number of their followers were always limited. And this is a good lesson for us as well. That's first of all, we are not in a position to make people believe. If the Prophet is not in that position, which the Quran says very explicitly many a time, that you are not in a position to guide people. You only call. Just like Shaitan, that Shaitan only calls, okay? Shaitan is not in a position to misguide people. Shaitan only calls. Now, your position is also that you only call. You are not in a position to guide people. It's only Allah who guides and misguides for certain reasons, which we will discuss later on. So you do not be concerned about the number of followers or these things. This is zinatul hayat dunya. You have to be only concerned about the correct conveyance, transferring this message correctly. And as I said, this is a lesson for us as well. We should not compromise anything in the hope that people may believe in Islam or they may come. Of course, we have to be lenient, we have to be elaborate in explanation and all these things, but eventually it's not us who guide people, it's Allah who guides people. تريد زينة الحياة الدنيا ولا تطع من أغفلنا قلبه عن ذكرنا. Now, if I want to discuss this, I think it takes us to another half an hour, so probably we stop here and inshallah we continue this in our next session. وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين.
Thank you very much indeed, Shaykh. So now we open the floor for about 15 minutes for discussion and further increase in the knowledge. Any brother wants to start? You want to? There's a mic there. You can switch on. There's a switch at the bottom. Just a minute, switch.
Alaykum assalam.
Should I press it? Yeah. Just actually, I want just to make sure this is instruction to the Prophet Muhammad, not to other people.
No, it's instruction, of course. The addressee is the Prophet Muhammad,
Yeah.
but not in the sense that Prophet didn't know this or didn't want to do otherwise. Okay, the Prophet is addressed so that other people take lesson.
I see.
Yeah, the Prophet is addressed so that other people make sure that they have understood correctly what is the position of the Prophet.
Yeah.
Yes.
Therefore, it goes to the word asbar. Asbar it could be used a different word. Why use asbar? Asbar means be patient, like take more time, rather than you could tell him direct instruction. You say, when he says, if I am here in this room and I want to leave, he will tell me, you say, asbar, wait, don't go. He wouldn't tell me, stay. I mean, I don't know why really the word is being used here, asbar, as a be patient. Was it the he didn't want it to, or he was losing patience?
No, sabr, you know.
Somebody, when he lose patience, he say,
Yeah,
no,
yeah. But here, you know, the root of the sabr is to somehow restrict someone. If you tie someone and kill them, for example, they hear qutila sabran, isn't it? In Arabic, they say qutila sabran. When, in old times, one of the punishment was that they tied the person, the hands, and then they started to hit them with knives and such things, why they could not defend themselves. This was qutila sabran. They were tied, they were restricted, and they were killed. So the root of sabr, and then patience comes from that you keep yourself tied to something. So here the exegetes have said, wasbir nafsak means ihbas nafsak. Keep yourself there, restrict yourself with these people.
Because he has attention to do some otherwise.
Yeah, that's what I say. That's, did he really have attention to do otherwise? Or the verse is telling the position of the Prophet to others, that he is commanded by Allah to restrict themselves to them. Not that he wanted to do otherwise, because if he wanted to do otherwise, as I said, it means that he was even lower than ordinary believers who have insights. They know that the life of this world is not important, it's temporary, transient, and they always keep themselves with the believers. What is in this verse and in many other verses, when the Prophet peace be upon him, is addressed like this. For example, وَلَقَدْ أُوحِيَ إِلَيْكَ وَإِلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكَ لَإِنْ أَشْرَكْتَ لَيَحْبَطَنَّ عَمَلُكَ. If you associate anyone with God, all your acts are going to be vain. Now, does that mean that the Prophet had something in his heart that he wanted to associate anyone with God? Or the verse is clarifying his position? And here also, the verse is clarifying his position, that I am commanded to be restricted to these people. So if you ask me something otherwise, I cannot, of course, address that positively. This is what it means.
Thank you. Any sisters? Any brother? Yeah, Mansur, can you take the mic there?
Assalamu alaikum. The story of the blind man coming, and then some people attribute that the Prophet, he sort of moved away from the blind man. So this same explanation will go.
Very good example you mentioned. See, here it comes like what we said previously, that sometimes the address is an instruction, a general instruction, not addressed to the Prophet. Here it's not general instruction, it's addressed to the Prophet, of course. It's very clear. But it clarifies the position of the Prophet. In that verse, Abasa wa tawalla an ja'ahu al-a'ma, he turned away when the blind man came. وَمَا يُدْرِيكَ لَعَلَّهُ يَزَّكَّى. How do you know that he would not be reminded if you talk to him about faith? Here, وَمَا يُدْرِيكَ is a general sort of address. It's not addressed to the Prophet. Here, there's big controversy between Shia and Sunni. The Sunni say this is addressed to the Prophet. The Shia says it's addressed to one of the companions of the Prophet, namely Uthman, who was a very rich man, of course, and who didn't want to sit with that blind man or something like that. But it cannot be addressed to that companion when there is no mention of him. It's probably one of those instances where a general instruction comes to human beings, that how do you human beings know that such a person who's blind may not be guided? And how do you know that a person who's wealthy, if you attend to them, his heart may turn towards you? You, as human beings, you do not know that.
Thank you. Any sisters? Brothers? Brother? Shaykh, also sometimes we face similar situations like Prophet used to face. For example, if you want to call somebody towards, I know the guidance is in the hand of Allah, but we want to call somebody and sort of explain him what Islam is and what Shiaism is, and we might have to sit with them sometimes and have food and all that. And I know there is this going on around that non-believers are they are not spiritually najis, but not physically najis, but spiritually najis. And so when we sit with them and have food with them and try to talk with them about Islam or that, and then we have this belief, 99% of us believe that they are physically najis still. Then how do we balance this out? Inviting them on one hand and having food with them, and then try to...
The same thing that Prophet did, of course. He did the same thing. He went and sat with the mushrikun, he talked to them, and although they may have been najas, of course, spiritually, but this is how it works, isn't it? It doesn't... this verse does not include that, of course. This verse is saying that if they want to set a condition for you, that, for example, you only come to a banquet to talk to you when, for example, there is no riffraff there, no poor people in their eyes, no poor people, no people of low status are there. So it is always good if you want to call someone of high status to Islam or talk to them, have a person of sort of lower status beside us to say that this is Islam. You see, this is Islam. We are like this. If you want to believe, this is Islam.
But that hasn't answered my question. Sorry to say that. If I invite somebody, okay?
Yes.
I will sit with
Okay,
them.
I mean, even if they are from Ahlul Kitab, the Maraj says...
I'm not talking about Ahlul Kitab.
Non-Ahlul Kitab. Okay, you sit with them. I mean, najasa is not a barrier. It's not a barrier for talking.
No, but if he is going to... You see, sometimes we have this belief that he's going to touch the food, and then the same food, we might have to take it up again. Okay, there is this going on around that. Physically, they are not najis, spiritually. So how do we balance it?
This is not their problem. This is your problem.
Yes, I know. How do I overcome that? How do I overcome that?
Yeah, you have to deal with it somehow. You have to deal with him somehow.
Okay.
Yeah. But Ayatollah Makarim actually has recently issued a fatwa, which those of you who follow Ayatollah Khamenei, and I think Ayatollah Sistani also have the same opinion, that if the Maraj are equal, you can, in certain rulings, you can follow another marja if they are equal in knowledge. And Ayatollah Makarim has issued a fatwa that kuffar, whether they're Ahlul Kitab or not, they are not najis. Okay, they are only spiritually, not physically. So in such case, you can, if you regard Ayatollah Makarim to be equal to Ayatollah Sistani in knowledge, then you can refer to him.
Thank you.
Okay.
Before
Does that address your question?
Okay. Thanks. Before we come to brothers, sisters, do you want to take? Yeah, just.
Assalamu alaikum. Just to back up his question, the brother before me, how do you explain this in a madrasa setting? So you're talking to 7 to 10-year-olds, and you're talking about najasa and tahara. So how do you explain this concept to a very young audience and give them the right picture as a madrasa teacher?
The concept of najasa and tahara itself, or about the human beings?
About the human beings. So disbelievers, yeah. So when we're talking about najasa, we say that kafir or disbelievers are also considered as najis. How do you explain that concept?
Well, of course, explaining things to children is very difficult, always. Any concept you want to explain. But one way to approach it is that, for example, we can tell a child that if you are somehow thinking with yourself to tell a lie, you yourself feel that you are not a clean person anymore. Okay, there's something wrong with you. There's something, your conscience would say that there's something wrong with you. Now, if telling a lie makes you impure in mind, how about, for example, not believing in God? How about associating someone with Him? How about believing that God has a son, for example? Doesn't that make our mind impure? And this, of course, explains the spiritual impurity. That yes, of course, any evil thought, any evil concept would make us impure. And this is the idea of spiritual impurity of kuffar. Now, when we want to deal with them physically, of course, then we come to contact with them. The whole traditions about these najasa and tahara is that when you come in contact with them, then that sort of impure idea, impure concept may somehow come to you. And therefore, for example, when you come in contact with them, be careful that you don't get that impure idea or impurity. This is the way we can explain that.
Do you want to add something, sister? That's very difficult.
So when it comes to the question of physical, or eating their food, or just coming to them, physical contact.
The whole idea of not eating food with kuffar and these things, the philosophy behind it was that because people of sort of simple faith may have been affected by these people. I mean, they adduced arguments and such things. The whole philosophy behind it that do not mix with them very closely, because then you will become like them. I mean, you want to somehow befriend and such, but eventually you are affected by those thoughts and ideas. And why should you expose yourself to something which is harmful to you? Like, for example, having bad friends who are addicted, who drink all the time. Everyone says, do not mix with them. They are not pure. Do not mix them very much. So the whole idea of this, then when it becomes a law, it becomes very solid and such thing. But the whole philosophy behind it is that do not mix very much with people who have impure ideas and concepts.
Thank you. Riyadh?
Yep. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. Thanks for the simple explanation. Can I dwell back to the haves and the have-nots, the money people and the not money people? So if you look at any revolution, it always starts with poor people, yes, because they are unhappy. So I'm looking at it from a socialist point of view, where you have a society. The people who have the power, if they want to change something, it's much easier because they have the power and they only have to convince 12 people around a table and that thing is implemented. But when it starts from grassroots, this is what we call a grassroots revolution, and that's exactly what Rasul was, and it mentions that he was nothing and we made you into something. Now, so let me understand this right. At the end of this as a question, is that if this is a natural evolutionary process which comes from the grassroots, and there comes a step or a stage when you have to elevate the religion into the top table, and this is what this subject seems to be about. Sit with the poor people. So is the instruction here, that staying with the poor people is better than staying with the money people? Is that what it is in essence? Because Islam also tells us to be humble.
Yes.
See, now the humble matches much better with the poor. The humbleness doesn't match with somebody who's driving a Rolls Royce. It doesn't go, if you know what I mean, right?
Anyone has a Rolls Royce here?
So let me understand this. So if it is for the poor people, why should you even listen into the political arena? Because what will happen, it will be projected into the political arena by itself. So to want your religion to progress is in everybody's mind. But you don't want those people who have the money making decisions, because then it's not the grassroots revolution anymore.
Yeah, a very good point. Usually we say that revolutions eventually they compromise their values. When they come to power, they compromise their values because, of course, of the, as you said, they mix with people of power and they have power themselves, so they compromise the original values and ideas. But here, you see, he's not saying that this is for poor people. It's for everyone. It's for the poor and for the rich. But if the rich want to set a condition for you that drive away the poor, then of course stop listening to them. It is not about money, it's not about wealth, it's not to be rich or poor. It's about a very different message, a very sublime message. So if the rich think that they are different in this regard, they are different from the poor, they are wrong. So do not listen to them.
Okay, just a minute. Doctor wants to add something and then we'll go to the sisters.
Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah.
Alaikum salam.
I have benefited and I am grateful to Almighty and to Shaykh. The question of najis and then the question that the respected sister raised is of extreme importance because it boils down to how we feel towards humanity. We are in continuous, every day, every minute contact with humans. And this understanding of najis, and therefore we can't touch them, we can't eat them, we look at them as najis because they have this idea or that idea, I think should be supplanted or taken over by another idea, and that is they are creatures of God as long as they're not waging physical or quite abhorrent ideological war on me, which is the case with the vast majority of people in this society. They are respectful, they appreciate your presence, and they are willing to leave you in peace, and sometimes they are willing even to hear what you have to say about creation and the higher values in life and in the universe. So in that respect, I think somehow Shaykh Makarim Shirazi has, I'm grateful that you mentioned this fatwa, has answered this question from the fiqh point of view, but from the spiritual and general understanding point of view, most of us have settled it some time ago. We just needed this seal of approval. Yeah. The vast majority of people are ayatullah. They are there. They are doing us favors. We are exchanging this gift of life and good companionship. That's how the society works. So if we have this feeling, we should be able to actually influence them positively. And some of them will find the fine tuning and the fine scripture that eventually Islam has to offer. But if we start from a point of view of saying you are, that's just a complete disaster and failure of communication, and will be the furthest away from getting anybody near the good mahasinu kalamina. Thank you.
I totally agree with you, but we have to bear in mind ritual impurity doesn't somehow reduce anything of humanity of anyone. Ritual impurity, for example, when wife and husband have go together and have a relation with each other, both of them become impure, isn't it? They have to do ghusl before they can do salat. They cannot do salat because they are ritually impure. It doesn't mean that they are less human now or something like that. It's a sort of idea about the way we have to approach God. Now, I also appreciate the fatwa of Ayatollah Makarim. And you know, Ahlul Sunnah have no distinction in this between Ahlul Kitab and Kafir or whatever. The human being is ritually pure, absolutely for them. And now we hear this from Ayatollah Makarim and others. But the point is, for example, you wouldn't like your children to befriend with drug addicts, okay? Does it mean that they are less human, or we shouldn't care for them, or we shouldn't look after their situation? It doesn't. But the point is, you think that, well, if my children befriend with them, they may be affected by them. My children may also become drug addicts, and I don't want them to become drug addicts. As I said, the philosophy of this was that do not mix with them in a way that you would somehow become affected by them. And then this idea of impurity of thought, impurity of mind came. So even if we do not accept this fatwa of Ayatollah Makarim, I mean, if some Maharaja would not accept that, it doesn't reduce anything of humanity of those who are, for example, kuffar. After all, we are all obliged, commanded to call them to Islam, isn't it? And that means that they have human heart, they have human soul, and it's good. So we have to somehow strike a balance here when they talk about najasa. And why our ulama nowadays talk about najasatu, taharatu ahlul kitab, and in old days all of them were saying ahlul kitab are najis, or because previously there was not this sort of intercultural relations, and people understood the traditions differently. For example, one tradition say that when you shake hand with them, afterwards go and splash some water on your hand. This doesn't mean najasa at all, because if your hand is not wet and their hand is not wet and you shake hand with them, nothing will happen. The najasa would not come. And by splashing some water, if it's najis, it wouldn't go away. It makes it more najis. So what the tradition is saying that be careful. You have to realize there is some sort of impurity of understanding in the mind that you have to address it some way. So now if this fatwa solves the problem, all the better. But even, as I said, even if you do not accept that, it does not reduce anything of their humanity. كَذَلِكَ كُنْتُم مِّن قَبْلِ فَمَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكُمْ, as we have in the verse. You were like them before. God made mercy, had mercy on you and guided you, and He may have mercy on them and guide them as well.
Thank you. I think, sister, you have a question? Yeah.
Well, I don't have a question. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
I just wanted to support what you said and what the doctor just said from a former non-Muslim standpoint. I think if people would have considered me najis and wouldn't have eaten with me, wouldn't have spoken with me, wouldn't have invited me to their homes, I wouldn't be here today. So
Absolutely.
I think it's very important that we as Muslims invite people. It's usually not even by words, but in the first instant by our akhlaq and the way we treat people. So I think that's incredibly important. And the second thing I wanted to mention is, if you are on your path towards Islam, it's not that one day you are, I mean, maybe officially it is, you say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah Muhammadan Rasulullah, then you're a Muslim. But I think spiritually, that's not the case. So it's usually a journey. Mine lasted several years. So one day you're not a Muslim, and it takes years, and you study, and you think, and you talk to people, and you read, you do courses, and you decide, well, maybe I'm already a Muslim, I just have to say it. So I think it's not, well, when is someone a Muslim? I don't know. There is a line, but it's not just that. I just wanted to add that from my own experience. Yeah.
Thank you, sister.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, sister.
Absolutely.
I think we'll have the last question from you, please. Yeah. Let's switch on. No. You're muted. You're muted.
Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. When we first started this morning's session, we were talking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling the Prophet that as a general instruction to mankind that he should not abandon the poor and the indigent because they are just as dear to God in favor of the rich and the powerful. But then we notice, if we look at history, what has happened down the ages, only the poor, only the rich have got control even over the religion and pushed back the religious authorities in the background. And after all these years, when we find that there is a revolution, an Islamic revolution, a true Islamic revolution in Iran, with all its faults and foibles, the rest of the Islamic Ummah does not want to even accept it as being the right of the religion to be in power. So how do we go about reconciling ourselves to that?
It's very interesting. When Amirul Mu'minin came to power, it was only about 25 years after the demise of the Prophet. Only 25 years. in his first sermon address, he said, "Ala wa inna baliyatakum qad adat kayawman ba'ath Allahu nabiyahu sallallahu alayhi wa sallam." Something like this. I may not remember the expression quite exactly. He says, your problems have come back exactly in the same way that, like the time when the Prophet was appointed by God. The same mindset, the same ideas, the difference between poor and rich. You are now, of course, the poor people have become rich. This Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, who says himself that I was one of the poor people, when he passed away, his riches could not be counted, okay, because he became very rich, okay.
Was he not the person whose block of gold had to be struck with an axe?
You see, so I mean, Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, Zubayr ibn Awab, other companions. You see, he says, your problems in baliyatakum qad adat ka hay'ata, exactly in the same form. Yawma ba'ath Allahu nabiyahu. They said the day when the Prophet was appointed. Now, in the eyes of Amirul Mu'mineen, that's glory of Islam and now conquest and all these things. He was not addressing that. He was addressing the attitude of the people, how the companions had become. Now, some people become very angry when we talk about companions in that way. But we have to see the realities, what happened, how the mindsets changed. The poor people now were in positions of the previously rich people. However, they were behaving the same way. So it didn't, of course, change anything. Yeah.
Thank you, Shaykh. Thank you, everybody.